Hi, welcome to the Financial Mastery Series. My name is Melanie McDonald, and today I'm going to talk about the concept of involving stakeholders. So, why is it important when we're collecting money owed to our firms to involve stakeholders? One of my clients, before we started working together, asked one of her clients, when she called, what am I, your bank? And I think this is a reasonable initial reaction to have, right? And as frustration grows when you're trying to work with a client, you can feel like you're being put in a very awkward and unfair situation. So psychologically, there's a lot going on with you, and there's a lot going on with your clients, and we want to steer that conversation differently. Let me share with you a story about collecting from a client that I've had. My client was going through a divorce, and this was in a different industry. And I knew she was going through a divorce, and I knew she was very upset about it. She didn't want to be going through a divorce. But I didn't really understand the nuances of how she felt until I spoke to a person who was on the ground who had a different relationship with her. Right? I had one kind of relationship. This other employee of mine had a different relationship. And over the period of a meeting, I checked in with her and said, hey, can you shed any light on anything more going on with this client who up to that point had paid very well? And she shared with me information that helped me understand the depth to which she was really um, going through pain and suffering and really trying to avoid getting divorced and what that meant to her. It was much more than I was aware with. I was sort of like up here, and this gave me a much deeper understanding of what was happening. At the next meeting I had with this client, instead of meeting in her office, we went to lunch. And I understand that today that's pretty much impossible, but it's to give you a flavor for having a different interaction with a client that's going through a very bad time. And I just let her talk with me about how she felt, how things were going with her, just as in sympathy with another human being. This is so important. And eventually we could get to our business, right? And she could describe to me her frustration with the quality of the invoicing. For example, there were problems which I had been unaware of. And she told me how it was really making a problem for her. So we had to go back to the drawing board and we had to do a lot of things. But part of that then is we had to change as a company our strategy with how we were invoicing. We had to change our tactics. We had to divide our invoices up between the parts that were really no problem and the parts that were problematic and required a lot more work on our end. So this conversation changed our strategy and our tactics. And that's what I'm proposing for you, that when you involve stakeholders, it includes everyone who works with you, who might have any contact with clients to give you a different perspective or different information, even though you think you know that client very well. And then let that information inform what your strategy and tactics are going to be. So once you have involved your stakeholders, you're going to consider that your clients also are stakeholders. So that step one is involving stakeholders. Get more information. Let that information evolve your strategy and your tactics. Then when you talk with your client, start with a tone of inquiry. How are you? What's going on with you? Check in with them. A step you could consider is humanizing what's happening with you. What's happening with your firm? How are you doing under the current scenario? So you are a human being also, a human being speaking to another human being. And part of humanizing your side is what's happening with your rent, what's happening with your employees. Obviously, not gory details, but to share, I haven't had rent abatement. I've had to pay all my people, even though my business is down. Or, whatever truth there is there that you feel free to share. But I think you can humanize your side in a variety of ways. And then finally, in that conversation, you're saying, so what can we do going forward? What is going to work? Now, if you hear that that person is in crisis and there's just nothing that can be done, then you might want to skip that step and say, I'll check in with you in 6 months or in the next quarter. I hope things turned around for you. I'll be thinking of you and sending you positive thoughts, or whatever you can say in your worldview that is supportive. But sometimes that person can start making payments. And I want to share that no one likes to owe money. It feels bad. And if you've owed money, you can relate to the fact that it feels bad. The people who enjoy owing money, there's something wrong with them. So I'm not dealing with those people. I'm speaking with the majority of people. And so when you can offer a payment plan, even if it's small, that makes the person feel better. Hey, you're starting back to work. That's fantastic. I'm glad your hours are increasing. Whatever is positive from what they've shared with you. Why don't we start with, again, whatever payment plan makes sense based on the reality of their situation. You're going to help them feel better. You will feel better. And again, you're going to check in with them in a quarter, see how they're doing, see what's going on. So there are ways to work with your clients that are very warm, that involve no negative reviews of any kind, that allow you to start collecting money better for the ones that can, even in this pandemic, I promise you. And if you'd like specific help related to your specific situations, please contact me. I would love to work with you. It's Melanie at strategicreceivables.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.